Here we go, guys. Can you believe it? We're on to month number 16 when it comes to our craft club, and this is all about our Shimmer ink pads. Now, when it comes to month number 16, you're going to get a 51-piece set, which is all about your Shimmer ink pads. So we need to dive in and have a look at everything you're going to be getting within Craft Club. So let's do that. Let's go in. You guys know by now, you get your plastic wallet that it all comes in. Now, as well as the tutorial videos for you to then follow, what you have got is you've got your booklet as well. Now, to access the videos, you can go to the web address or just scan that QR code, but what you are going to get is 6 amazing techniques within these booklets here. Now, you've got the steps when it comes to the pictures. You've got them in written as well. Going to cover things such as going through stencils, heat embossing, watercolouring, colouring your die cuts, stamping backgrounds, and then you've got your little notes section should you wish. That's your technique booklet. But this is what it's all about. So you've got your Shimmer ink pads here. Now, in total with these, you're going to be getting 5. Now, these are perfect for layering, blending. You can do your heat embossing, but they all give you an incredible shimmer. So you're going to get those 5 in there. And then to do things such as layering and blending, we are giving you all of these finger daubers. We're giving you 5 in total, so you can use 1 for each colour. So that's in there as well. Then we're going to be giving you some stencils. Now, we're going to be giving you 3 stencils in total. So you can actually be taking your shimmer inks and your finger daubers and then starting to layer the colour all the way through. You can then start to do all your water techniques if you want to, or of course you can use these with other mediums as well. But we're giving you them to then of course come along and get started with the stencils. Then to do that and to do your water techniques, you're going to want some watercolour card. Now, these are 6 by 6 and we're going to be giving you 5 sheets. So this is where you can use your inks, your finger daubers and your stencils as well. Now, maybe you just want to start to layer the colour. We're giving you some of your card panels. Now, these are 6 by 4 and you're also going to be getting 5 of these in total too. So that's in there. And then to finish your card and your project, we're giving you a full sheet of our die cut, our laser cut sentiments. Now, it's an 8 by 8 sheet, but what you're going to be getting is 5 birthday, 5 love and 5 celebrate uncoated, so you can just pop them out and then you can do the inking with your shimmer palettes. That's in there. But then to actually colour in, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be giving you a sheet of your clear acrylic stamps. Now, within these are perfect because you can then colour, you can then pop your sentiment on the front, and we're even giving you an insert for either the inside of your card or you can use it on the outside of your card. We're giving you 12 stamps in total on that 8 by 8 sheet. So whether you're going to be blending through, maybe you're going to be inking through, maybe you're going to be using your stencils, maybe you're just going to be using the finger daubers and the ink pads. You can use all these different components individually. You can start to then combine them together. You can of course do watercolours. You can then just start to do water-based techniques. You can do so many when it comes to Craft Club. This one is all, of course, about number 16, and it is all about your Shimmer ink pads. Now, when it comes to Craft Club, this one being month number 16, and it's all about the Shimmer ink pads, you can start to use all colours together and create a beautiful blended background like you can see here. So this is what we're going to make. Now, to start with, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in one of those card panels that you get within the set. What we're also then going to do is we're going to bring in one of the stencils. Now, you've got your 3 of them to choose from. So let's go in with this one here, because you've kind of got that circular sort of mandala effect within there, and you've got that symmetrical look too. Now, when it comes to this one, the actual height fits that card perfectly. So what I like to do is use a little bit of low tack tape, and I just like to hold that stencil down. It also just creates a little bit of a lever, but if you want to use a spray, if you've got one, then perfect, you can. And then we're going to use all 5 of the ink pads. So you're going to be getting in total your Amethys, your Starlight Sky. We're then going to be using the Golden Honey. We're also then going to be using our Majestic Ruby, and then we're also going to be using Lime Soda. So I've got these ones all lined up, and then I'm just going to go in with the 5 finger daubers as well, 1 for each colour. So all that you need to do is you can pick where you want to start. I'm going to start kind of at the bottom corner and work my way up with a diagonal, and then let's go in with the Majestic Ruby here. So I'm just going to then pick up that colour on the finger dauber. Now finger dauber you can pop on your finger. I do prefer to just hold it. The other thing that you can do if you want to take one of your little water spritzers, that then fits on the end and it gives you that extended handle. But I just like to take some of that excess off for now, and then I'm just going to dab and daub through the stencil here. And I'm going to eyeball each section. So I'm not going to be doing it exact, but I am going to kind of work it, just visually, eyeballing within each individual section so I can get kind of the right amount of ink within each of the sections. So let's go in and then just keep building and building. And you can then use and build as much colour as you want, or you can then keep it quite light and subtle. Either way, you will get a gorgeous shimmer bouncing off of your cardstock. So we've gone in with the first one. Let's go in now with the Amethys. We're going to do the same, but we're going to join that from the red. So let's take that excess off, and then we're just going to start to pounce, and then we're going to blend that through in a moment. So what I mean by that is I'm going to lay the colour down first into its section, and then I'll come along and then start to blend it with the red. So let's ink up, and then we can then just start to blend that in by daubing it in, pick it up, and then I'm going to start to cross over into the red here. Don't worry about cross-contamination when it comes to the purple. With the red, you can always take a little bit of scrap cardstock and then dab that excess off, but you can get a really, really beautiful blend. You can, if you want, go in circular motions to blend, but my preferred method with the finger daubers is to do exactly that, and that's just dab it up and down. So we can then move that one out the way, and you can always go back and add more if you want. So this time we're going to go in with the Starlight Sky, which is more of a blue. So we can then pick that colour up. Let's bring that to the side here. If it moves, because you've created that little hinge at the top, you can just slide it back in. Alternatively, you could tape your card down as well. Or if you've got a large stamping platform, use the magnetic discs with the magnetic base to hold it into place. So you've got options, but if you are a beginner, you don't need much whatsoever tool-wise to get started. So we're going in there with the blue or the Starlight Sky, and then start to ink up into sections. Same as the purple or the Amethyst, what I'm doing is I'm going to go in and just start to add and build that colour, and then I'm going to go back over into the purple and then start to blend that in. So once I'm happy with that, because I don't want a pure smooth blend, on the other hand, I don't want like a subtle tone of colour, and I don't want an overly powerful one either. I kind of want the best of both worlds. So some sections might be bold in colour, some might be light, but either way, you're still going to get that incredible shimmer. So I'm going to move that one out the way, just making sure as well that I keep my lids right. We're going to go into the second last one, which is going to be our green, or our lime soda as it's actually called. I'm going to move the honey out the way for a second, and then we're going to keep doing what we have been doing. So go in sections, go in blocks, and then we'll come back in a moment and then start to blend that in. So pounce up and down, add that green in. Of course, the actual name being lime soda. Go in, work it in, and then we're going to go into the blue and then start to blend that in. So although I'm just dabbing here, this just goes to show as well, if you did want to go circular, then of course you can do. So start to dab that in. We can then move that one out the way, And then the last one, we can then go in with that beautiful golden honey. So we're just going to finish off that section here, and we're going to repeat exactly what we've been doing. Go in with, of course, the block of colour into the section, and then we can come along and then blend in. So pounds up and down, and then either circular motions, or of course, we can then just start to then pounce either way. It's up to yourself. So once you're happy with your layer that you've got, we're just going to quickly make sure that we've got all of the lids on. The last thing we want to do is pop my hand in them, and then we can do the reveal. So we're going to then just take the bottom, we're going to lift, and then we get that beautiful backdrop. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to quite see the shimmer bouncing off. I'm going to go face on as well, so we can see here. And then if I turn that around, and then I'm going to start, there we go. You can start to see that shine and that shimmer bouncing off all 5 colours. So what we can also do, obviously don't waste the ink that you've got. What you can at home, you can always come along and then using a little bit of your white card, because your stencil is a non-porous surface, take that same finger dauber and then use all of that excess that's on there. You know, for this bit I'm not going to be using, but it's just to show you not to waste what's already on your stencil. You can take that excess off, and then you'll actually get a couple of blended impressions. So if we take that one, you can see the more that you do that, that lighter in tone that it's going to get. But this is what we're going to be using. So we're going to be using our ink pad here. Well, this one in a moment, and then this one as well. So we're just going to clean off our glass mat first. We don't want to have any of this colour on the back of your card. So any of that excess, just take it off. Make sure you're nice and clean. We're going to give that a little bit of a dry as well, and that means we are ready to go with the next step. Now what I would do is I would let that dry on its own, or you can heat set it with a heat tool. But if I bring in one that I've already done just beforehand, exactly the same, but that's now dry, so that then means I can then get going, make my card without it starting to blend or that with my fingerprints. So I'm going to set that one there for the second, and then I'm going to bring in with one of the birthday sentiments. So this one just says birthday. It's the laser cut, and I'm just going to leave it in there for the time being, and I'm going to come in with the Starlit Sky. Back in with the finger dauber, and when it comes to colouring the sentiments, I prefer to leave them in the cardstock. As you can see, I have already chopped it down from the 8x8 card, but just chop it down to what you need and then ink it while it's already within its section. Find it a little bit easier. It means that you're not fighting with the delicacy of the die cuts. So let's then start to work that through, giving that a really good coverage. And then once you're happy with that, if you find you had missed a little bit, when you take it out, don't worry, you can always add. So I'm going to move that one out the way for now, and then we're just going to then pop that one out. Now with these, because these are a shimmer, when I say that they are still wet, what that means is you could still come along with some of your embossing powders, sprinkle that on and heat set it. So that's what I mean by that it's still wet. So therefore what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in also one I've done just before, which is now set. And that just means that no powder or that can stick to it. So set that one out the way. Once again, let's just take our wipe, take that excess. So we've blended, we've coloured, and then the other thing that you can also do is bringing in just a tiny, tiny little bit of cardstock. This is white card. We can also stamp with them. So let's bring in our stamping platform, and I'm going to go in with my stamping mat. Let's go in with, all that I want is this stamp that says beautiful. So we're going to have beautiful birthday. So we're going to set that onto our stamping platform. I'm going to stick with the Starlit Sky. We're just going to ink up like so, and then we can then turn that around. I'm just going to line that one up. I've cut it to the size that I need. You can stamp and then cut your card afterwards, but then press, release, and now we've got a beautiful diddy little, well, beautiful sentiment that you can see. And as I've said the last couple of times, that is still wet if you wanted to pour embossing powder over the top. So I'm going to bring in the one that I've done beforehand. Maybe 10-15 minutes on its own, it will dry, or just after a few seconds with a heat tool. So now we've done our blending, we've done our colouring, and we've done our stamping. So let's start to assemble all this together. Now I'm going to go in with this size card blank from my own stash. It could be from one of your previous craft clubs, and it's 5.5 by 7.5 inches. And then if I bring in these layers, I'm going to pop them on, and then I've got a couple of additional ones that's going to go on. So when it comes to that, that's your panel that you get included within Craft Club. And you know what I'm like by now. I love my mats and layers that are at 1/4 inch increment. So I've used my guillotine. You could use your paper trimmer, your craft knife and ruler if you want, or you can draw it with a pencil and cut with your scissors. But we're going to go in with that black, which is going to lift and elevate it ever so slightly. I've gone in with a blue linen cardstock, which we've done a number of times within past craft clubs, so you can always use them. Let's pop that one on, and then we're going to come in with these layers here. So the white is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and then just like my top panel, the black and then the blue are 1/4 inch bigger. Now we can pop that into place here. This is a great way to expand your 4 by 6 panels into a large card. But if you're not into large cards, or you're conscious of cost of posting, then that could quite simply go onto a card blank and keep it really small. But this is a nice, easy way to expand from a small up into a bigger card by your mats and layers. Now I'm going to go in with my tape runner, add that side to side, top to bottom, bring in our card blank here. Now for this, I am also going to bring in one of my favourites, of course, and that is a foam pad. You might have some foam pads left over from the previous decoupage. You can use them, or of course use your Crafter's Companion branded foam pads. Really, really simply add in that little bit of height and elevation, always optional. I'm going to do it so that the red is at the bottom. Sit that in, and then beautiful and birthday. That's roughly going to go round about there. But if I just sit that on, it's really hard to see it. You cannot tell that it says birthday. So from a couple of little bit of excess card, the white, and then a little bit of black, the white 3.5 by 1 inches, and then I've given myself a little black frame with my black card. That is instantly going to enable you to see the word birthday, and it's going to jump from, of course, your card. Now I'm going to use my tacky glue. You can use your dotty tape runner. Please, please do be careful, because these are very, very intricate and delicate cuts. So you just want to make sure that you don't rip or tear them. So for me, my tacky glue is going to be my go-to. I'm just going to dab a little bit of the excess glue off on the back of my hand. It is safe, but of course, if you ever have issues with your skin, you can always just dab it onto your glass mat. And then I'm going to move that into place. So we've got birthday, and I can't have a sentiment without a foam pad again. So let's add a couple of foam pads into here. Take that off, and then the only thing we need to do is add that beautiful. So I'm going to go over the side ever so slightly, over the right hand side, and then beautiful. What I'm going to do, I'm going to then add my glue, but then I'm going to have it so it's like a little tag just above the birthday, and then that is it. I'm just going to add in additional gems if you want to. You don't have to. Maybe some ribbons, some pearls. Again, it's entirely up to yourself, but that is one of the projects that you can be making from Craft Club. It's month number 16, and it's all about the Shimmer Inkpads. Now when it comes to our Craft Club, this one of course being month number 16, and it's all about the Shimmer Inkpad, you can start to combine techniques. And for this one, we're going to blend our background with one colour, but then we're going to use a few colours to paint and watercolour, and you're still going to get a lovely shimmer no matter what you do. Now, to get started, let's do our background. So I'm going to go in with a piece of our white cardstock. I've cut it to 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches, and the reason being it's a perfect fit for our stencil. Now I'm going to use that entwined heart stencil. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to tape it down to create a little bit of a hinge. If you find though your card still moves underneath, just take your dotty tape runner. You can do it with a straight tape runner. I do prefer with the dots. And then we can then pop that onto our glass mat or our surface. That's it now, going to be held in place. Just build up that heat ever so slightly, and then that's it, held. Bringing in our low tack tape. So this is going to create that hinge at the top. So we're just going to create that top fold at the top, and then we can bring in our ink pad. Now I'm just going to use the one colour. So for this one, I'm going to use the Majestic Ruby, and I'm going to bring in the finger dauber that I've started using as well. Now the finger dauber you can either pop into your finger, or if you do find it easier just to hold and grip, then you can do that. Now I'm going to go through the whole lot. I'm going to keep the outer edges a little bit more heavier in colour than the inner section, but I take just a little bit off onto my glass mat to start with, because they are really, really juicy. So it just means I'm in full control of the depth. And then I'm going to pounce up and down. If you want to go along and do a blend like that, you can absolutely do that. Because your stencil, the material of the stencil, is a non-porous surface, that means that the ink is still sitting on the design of the stencil, and therefore you can then take it off, daub it off, or of course blend it off in circular motions just like that. So we're going to go in, pounce, and then blend. So keep working our way around. I like to start on the outer edge, get that deep tone of colour, and then we can come along and then start to then get a little bit lighter within that inner section. Now this is a white smooth cardstock, so although these are water-based ink pads, this isn't a watercolour card, and that's because I'm not going to be doing any water techniques on this background. I don't want that lovely texture that the watercolour card gives you. I want to have a smooth layer with, of course, the ink, hence why I'm just using my smooth card. So working our way around, and it's very, very forgiving, this technique. It means that you don't have to be precise, you don't have to be accurate, because once we start to dab that colour on and then start to work in circular motions, you're going to get that lovely lay down of colour. So we're going to work our way around till we get to where we started. So keep inking. Now of course you can hold the ink pad down if you want to, and then come along and then pounce. So we're just working that in, blend in, because the card stays in place, the stencil stayed in place. That means that you're going to then get no kind of drop shadowing that you can sometimes get when stencil or cardstock move. Now I'm going to keep using the excess that's already on my stencil. If you need to go along and apply a little bit more, then of course you can do that. But because I want more of that subtler colour of red, we're going to go in and we're just going to keep working it in. Some of it's going to be covered anyway when it comes to that floral bouquet that we're going to watercolour. So again, don't be overly precise, don't think too much, have fun. And that's what it's all about. By following the techniques when it comes to Craft Club, it's just that enjoyment. If you find that it does move ever so slightly, pop it back in and then start to blend all the way around. That's all that I'm going to do with my background there. So move all of that out the way. I'm going to get a wipe ready so that we can take this excess off, because we don't get that on the back of our cards. But then if we lift, look at that. Isn't that fab? And then just having a few dots on the back, it's easy to move off. And then of course we're going to be adding our tape anyway. But what we will get, and you start to get more of that shimmer once, if we see that bottom corner there, how fab is that? Just down into here, you start to see that shimmer bouncing through. There we go, fab. And that's just the one colour. So let's move all of these bits out the way for now. I'm going to clean that excess off so it's out the way, and then we can then just dry that off as well. So set that to the side. That's then going to dry, you know, maybe about 10-15 minutes at room temperature. And I say dry, it stays that little bit wet where you can pop embossing powder on, or you can heat set it if you want. I'm going to take in some watercolour card, and I've cut it to 3" by 4". For this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my stamping platform. I'm going to use just my small stamping mat, and then I'm going to also come along with my waterproof ink pad. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because these are water-based, so I need a waterproof ink pad. We also need our stamp, and we're going to go in with that beautiful floral bouquet. So take that off the carrier sheet. If you've got your larger stamping platforms, you can use that. But we're going to go in, and we're going to position that in, and then let's go in with our ink pad, and then we're going to apply our ink. So let's start to layer that up. So we're going to give that really, really good coverage. This is a Noir black one. So we're going to get that really standout outline line to then colour in. We're going to then position that into the middle, and I've cut it to 3 by 4, so that's going to be the perfect mat that we can then layer onto our card front. I'm just going to hold one hand still and then press with the other. We can then swap hands, work it in, good pressure, and then we can remove, and we've got a really bold, even left in black, looks absolutely beautiful. But we're not going to leave it there. We're going to colour. So to colour, I've got some water just out the tap, and I've also gone in with a fine paintbrush. You'll have got one within a previous craft club that you can be using, and then we're going to go in with 4 colours. Now the only one we're not going to use is the blue. We're going to use the lime soda, golden honey, majestic ruby, and then the amethyst. So we're going to start now by popping it onto our glass mat. So don't ever put your brush in water and then put it to the ink pad, because what that will do is then that will start to water it down, which you don't want. We want to keep them nice and fresh. So we're going to go onto our glass mat. It could be a craft mat, a dinner plate, a tile, a Gemini plate, acetate, anything that's a non-porous surface. And then we get to have even more fun. We've created our background, now we get to watercolour. So we're going to pick up that colour of whichever one you choose to start with. So we're going to go in and we're going to pick it up, and let's go in now with that really, really bold but full open petal of the flower. Now I'm going to go in quite heavy with colour within that centre section, but we can then start to pull and draw that colour out with it being a water base. And although we're going to add extra water to pull it out, once dry, you will still get a lovely shimmer that comes through. So I'm just going into my water, taking some of that excess water off, and then we can then start to pull. We're going to go in petal by petal, and if you find that you've maybe pulled a little bit too much colour and it's a little bit lighter as to where you started, just let it dry slightly, and then you can always add. And that's the great thing with watercolouring, and that is you can always add. And I always find it's a really good confidence booster for anyone that's wanting to start out with their watercolouring. So we've gone for that inner section of petals. We're then going to go onto that outer section. So what I'm going to do is I'll do a couple of small areas using one of the each colour, and then I'll bring in my finished one so you can see what it looks like once it's combined. In with the water, take that excess off, and then we can start to blend that out. So we're just going over where we've started, and we're pulling it out with our paintbrush, work our way around. I find it easier to turn my cardstock. But at this point, if you wanted to go with a little bit more as to where we started, we can absolutely do that. The stamps have been designed to give you highlight lines as well. So if you want to follow them to give them extra definition, you can do that. I can see I've still got a little pool of water on my glass mat, so I'm going to use that and then just continuously pull or push that colour out within that large petal. Once you're happy with that one, let's go in now with our purple or the amethyst, and then we're going to do exactly the same. So I'm picking that colour up. Let's go at, tell you what, this time, let's go in with the bow. So I'm going to do what I've done with the floral, but this time I'm going to go into the center of the bow, down into the tails. I'm going to take some of that excess water off my glass mat, and then we can then pull or push, whatever you feel easier doing, the colour out. Now I can see there the center of my bow has gone a little bit too light than I want. So what we can do then, make sure my brush is relatively dry, pick a little bit more of that heavier colour up, and then just start to apply it, building in that shade. I'll do one other floral here, going in with the red. So I'm just cleaning that excess ink off, and we're going to repeat that step. Each step we're repeating what we've already done, we're changing the colour, and we're moving to a different floral. So tap it all the way around, take that excess off onto the glass mat or your surface, wherever you're colouring from, and then start to pull that colour. So when I say pull or push, you can either pull that colour out that way, or you can push it away from yourself. You get the same look, but it's personal preference. I'm going to go in again, a little bit more of that red, and I can just pop that in, like so. And then I'll tell you what, so that we've done the 4 colours, let's go in with a couple of leaves here, and then it's very straightforward to assemble the card. I'm going to go down the veins of the leaves. So instead of going from the centre of a petal, we're going to go in with the veins. Make sure we've got a nice heavy colour. Take that excess off, so we've got a very light, damp, but uncoloured paintbrush, so that we can then pull that colour out. And they're water-based, so you can start to create your own colours as well. Mix in, get different shades, get different depths, and all you need to do then is then continuously colour until you're happy with the finished result. I can finish that one off later on, but once then you're finished, you're happy, you're going to be left with something like this. And even when it's completely dry, if you wanted to go back and add a little bit more colour, you can absolutely do that. Now, what I would do at home, I wouldn't waste that colour that's on the side of my mat there, but of course for time, I'm just going to take it away, but you can do all your backdrops or do more blending with it. Now let's finish this card here. So I'm going to go in with a couple of strips of black. I'm going to go in with a card blank that's 6 by 6, and then let's also take the background that we have created. I'm going to dry that excess off for a moment. So let's do mats and layers. Taking my tape runner, I'm going to go round the side. I don't need to take that little bit of excess dotty tape runner off, because that's still going to add as an adhesive layer. I'm going to then just move that in. I'm going to realign that one. I've not pressed too hard, so that means I can realign, pop it over the top, press. It may still be a little bit damp with having that water-based Shimmer ink pad, so instead of really pressing, as in a blended press, I'm just going to tap with my hand, and then we can finish that layer off by going in, and then we're just going to add that on. I'm going to do a top full card, so we're going to set that on, hold that in. We are then adding our floral. Now I want to pick that out with a little bit of black, and the reason being it creates that frame. If I sit that into there, it does look lovely, but you want to elevate it ever so slightly. And then talking about elevation, with a little bit of trickery on the eyes, to elevate it that little bit more, I've taken a little bit of scrap and just cut a little tail at the bottom. It's creating an additional dimension. It's creating kind of like a faux kind of additional height without adding foam pads or glue gel, which then that can then sit over the top. Just breaks it up, gives the eye something else to look at, but we do need to, of course, finish with our sentiment. So that's going to go into there, hold that in, and then taking one of the cut sentiments. So I've gone for love here, and then I'm going to go in with Amethys. So lovely, lovely purple, and then we're going to ink up while it's in its cardstock. Easiest way to do it is to ink while it's in position, and then you can pop it out. Let's then ink that to the colour that you want. I'm keeping it within the one tone, but you can always blend, you can go light, you can start to go heavier if you want to. Move that out the way, we can then pop that one out. And because this one is now still a little bit wet, what I'm going to do is bring in the one that I've already done here. So I'm going to then pop that on. If you were to sprinkle embossing powder on that, I would do it now once you've taken it out that panel. But we can set that out the way, bring that in, and then I'm going to use my tacky glue. We're going to work our way around, just sketch over the back of the sentiment, like so. A little bit of that excess I'm just going to take off my hand, and then I'm going to overlap into that bottom corner, press that in, hold for a second, and now we've got our 6x6 card where we've done a little bit of blending onto the back, we've done a little bit of stamping and watercolouring, and whether you're blending, whether you're watercolouring, with the Craft Club month number 16, you're still going to get that incredible shimmer with the Shimmer Inkpads. Now, when it comes to our craft clubs and all the different techniques, which this one is month number 16, and it's all about the Shimmer Inkpads, we are going to stamp our sentiment and verse on the front, and we're going to use one of the little stamps to then create our background. Really, really lovely card, but very, very simple and easy one to make. So I'm going to set that out the way, and then we're going to come in with our stamp. So we're going to go in with that large one that has that verse. So taking that one off the carrier sheet, we're going to then bring in a little bit of cardstock. Now within this cardstock, I've already cut it to 2 3/4 by 4 1/4, and then we're going to bring in our stamping mat. Now you will find as well, it will just fit your 4x4. So if you've only got 4x4, that's great, that will work. But to give me that little bit extra room and scope, I'm just going to go in with my larger 6x6. And alternatively, you can be using your 12x12. So I'm going to get my cardstock as and where I want it. Now to actually stamp with, I'm going to go in with the purple, or the Amethys as it's called. And we're going to go along, and we are treating this ink pad like we would if we are using a waterproof ink pad, or we are using an alcohol-proof ink pad, or any ink pad essentially. We're just using this shimmer from, of course, the Amethys. So we want to make sure we've got really, really nice coverage. We're covering each word, each of the little designs, and then once you're happy with that, what we're doing, turning it around. And then because I like to cut my cardstock to the size I want to start with, if you are using your magnetic discs, you've still got room to pop your magnetic discs in place, but we're going to line up. Once I'm happy, we're pressing. Now I'm going to keep one hand still and then press with the other, and then I'll chop and change, and then I'll press with the other hand and hold with the other. So I want to make sure I've got a nice impression all the way around. You can't press too much because the feet from all of your stamping platforms will only let you go so far. Once you're happy, lift. It's a pigment shimmer ink palette, so therefore you might find the card will stick to start with, but then it drops off, and then you've got a really lovely sentiment that you can then put on the inside of your card, or as we're going to do, on the outside of our card. So set that one out the way, we'll mat and layer them in a moment. I'm going to come in with another piece of white cardstock that I've got here. Now the card I've cut to 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. We're going to go back in with our stamps. You've got butterflies, hearts, stars, you've got your florals as well, but we're going to go in with this little diddy floral kind of foliage design. I'm going to come back in with my stamping platform, and I'm going to go back in with my small stamping platform. You can of course still use your larger stamping platforms, but what we're going to do is we're going to create our own little background. So therefore it's a little bit easier to keep moving the 4x4. Alternatively, if you've got a little acrylic block, you can use that too. Now I'm not going to worry too much about the centre, because once we've mat and layered our verse, that's going to go into the middle. So all that I really want to focus on is the outer edge. So I'm going to go in with the green, or the lime soda as it's called, and then we're going to ink up. So we're inking up exactly the same way as I'd done with, of course, the verse. Press, stamp, move. And then we're going to keep repeating that process, but we're going to go at different angles. We don't want it to be perfect. If you've got some bits that you've maybe not put too much pressure on, don't worry, it adds to that effect. But then you can also do things such as second generation stamp. So that's applying no more ink, go back in, let's turn it at another angle, press, you'll get a light impression being called a second generation stamp. It's a little bit like a shadow. So we're going to then go in, twist, turn, and then stamp. And then I like to also get, to start with, I like to get as much of the main image in it that we can, but then I'll come in these little bits. I'll do little stamping tuck-ins. Now what I mean by that is I'll still ink up the whole stamp, but then I'll maybe just come in just off the page. I've still got excess ink on here, so let's just stamp off the page, and then we can then keep working our way. So I'm going to then finish the outer frame, and then we can go in and do these little tuck-ins. If you're doing this on watercolour card, you could go in with your water brush and water and start to pull some of that colour out and do a little bit of watercolouring, or you can go over the top with an embossing powder. Ideally you want a clear embossing powder so you can still see that lime soda coming through, but we're just working our way all the way around randomly, nothing specific, no specific kind of way up or way down or in any other order. We're just wanting to then get that pressed into place. So now we've done that outer edge, let's start to do little kind of tuck-ins off the page. I'm going to go into the corner here as well. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go back into here, so maybe there's a little space there or thereabout that I can still see. So I'm going to go in, and then I'm going to stamp. Now, although you're not going to see that full part, you're still going to see little bits popping out. So just keep that in mind. You know, you can't overstamp, put it that way. You might not see little bits, but at least you're still going to see these little kind of tuck-ins and off the page. So let's just do a little bit there, let's do a little bit there, and then even just second generation there, and then let's do that one there. And now that is me happy with my background. It's just the outer edge that I really wanted to focus on, and that's exactly what I've done. So move that out the way. I'm going to bring in some purple and green cardstock. Now these are a nice bright colour. Now we've gone from things such as your Bohemian A4 cardstock and also a little bit from Colour Your World at Crafter's Companion. So if you've got them, you can use them. Bring in our tape runner. So I'm going to use the background we've created onto the purple first. We're going to go all the way around with our straight tape runner. So we're going to frame, and then we're going to layer and press. We're going to go onto that matching lime soda or lime green, bring that in. That can then go into here. Now that would fit lovely on a 5x5 card. If you want to make it a little bit bigger to make a statement when it comes to that verse, I'm going to go in with a piece of white card, 5.5 by 7 inches. Now I've taken a coordinated piece of purple cardstock. Not going to use any green, but we're going to then pop that on here, like so. Now usually I would layer that onto my card blank and then that one on top. I'm going to do my background first, and there is a reason, and that is because I've taken a little bit of a ribbon. So let's press that in here. So I've taken a little bit of ribbon. Now I want that to kind of overlay both components of the card. So let's add our tape on there and then there at the top. I'm going to then start to position that. If you find your ribbon has got little fold lines in them, you can always take a little iron or something, and then you can then iron it out. but because we're going to be stretching it, I'm not too worried. So that's now me got my ribbon strip. We need to then just move it in. We can. Now we can come along and let's add our tape. I want to make sure I put a nice little bit over the ribbon. So it's not just the card that's going to be sticking to the card blank, but the ribbon as well. Lift, bring it in. Let's make sure our card blank is the right way. So we're going to sit, press, and then if we go in with our sentiment, I'm going to bring in another couple of bits of cardstock, same colours that I've used for that background. Taking my tape runner, we're going to then work that round. We're going to add a little bit of lift with a foam pad in a moment, but we're going to press that in with our tape. Before we pop our foam pads, I'm going to take 3 petals from a past craft club, and I've gone for a large and 2 small. Now I find this easier to do before we pop any foam pads on the back. So we're going to go 1, we're going to go 2, and then we're just going to pick that third one up, press that in. Now we can go with our foam pads, turn that over. Always make sure you've got a really nice coverage because you don't want the back of your card or your verse or your image to have no support. So all edges plus the centre. We'll lift the pads off, and then that can go within the middle. And then last but by no means least, I've taken another bit of ribbon, and all that I've done was tied a knot. It's not a bow, I just tied it in a simple knot. I'm going to go into the centre, I'm going to add a little bit of tape, I'm going to press that into place there, and then there we'll go. We've got that statement piece of a card where we've used that verse and we've stamped the verse with an ink pad, and we've created our background as well. And that's another way in which you can use Craft Club month number 16, and it's all about the Shimmer Inkpads.